Guys, how are you? Welcome to my very tiny kitchen where today I'm going to teach you how to make fresh homemade pasta from scratch. Okay? I've got my wonderful husband filming for us. Hopefully he won't screw this up too bad. It's only been 2 beers. So let's go right in here. We're starting with all-purpose flour. So I have 1 pound of all-purpose flour. And for 1 pound of flour you need 4 whole eggs. Now because we are making fresh ravioli, we want to add a couple extra egg yolks. The protein in the yolk actually adds more stability and power. I have double O, don't worry about it. That's totally fine. All purpose is okay. Red flour is okay. We're going to make a little well in here. So think of it like a flour volcano. You're making a big hole. This is where the lava is going to sit. And I'm starting in a bowl because it's neater. That way you don't have to worry about it going all over the counter. So because we're doing ravioli and not just plain pasta, I have 4 whole eggs plus 2 extra yolks. Right into the middle of the well. Take a fork, give them just a little bit of a scramble. And we're going to add just a wee splash of water, just like a little half teaspoon or so. All right, now here's the part where the pasta, the paste, actually forms. You're going to start slowly stirring your eggs and gathering the flour from the outside of the edges of the well. And as you're beating your eggs, you're going to add those in more and more. All right, so I'm forming my paste. As you get thicker and thicker, you can scrape more of that flour in. It's going to become what we call a shaggy dough. It's going to be really rough looking. It doesn't look like it's ever going to come together, but I promise you it will. So just don't worry about adding any more moisture at this point. You're going to keep stirring and stirring until you get everything moistened. All right, so that's our shaggy dough. Once we're at this point, we're going to dump it out onto our counter. Now, I happen to have a marble board. Don't worry about that. A plain wood countertop or any other countertop is just fine. Just make sure it's very, very clean. All right, now we go for the kneading process. First, we want to kind of press all our moisture in here, right? We want to get all that flour working so we have something that sort of looks like a ball of dough. So I just keep folding towards myself and pressing away. And you fold and you press away. And you keep dragging all the extra flour in. All right? So see how it's starting to come together now into a rough ball? It's going to stick to your hands. That's okay. Don't worry about it. At this point, we start the actual kneading. So we've gone through the pickup stage of that. Now we're going into the cleanup / formation stage. This is where we work all our gluten in our flour. The whole purpose of the kneading process, is that we're developing the gluten. Gluten is what keeps pasta strong and keeps it from dissolving in water. So we're going to be kneading it just like a bread dough. And as we work it, those gluten strands are going to get tighter and tighter and tighter. Because right now they're kind of all over the place in this big matrix. We're working them so they're nice and together and tight. And then we're going to rest the dough for 20 minutes. And that resting period takes all those tight glutens that we just worked and it allows them to do this. So they're still locked together, but they're looser, and that lets us roll our dough out later. Okay, so here's the kneading process. You're going to always use the heel of your hand. We're going to push away, fold towards yourself, give it a quarter turn. Push away, fold toward yourself, quarter turn. Push, fold, turn. Push, fold, turn. And you're going to continue to do this. And as you get better at it, you get faster and faster. And yes, it looks really rough. Now at this point here, after the first few turns, if your dough is not coming together and you have a lot of flour, see this little bit of flour I'm not worried about. If you have a lot of flour, if it feels really crumbly and it's not sticking, go ahead and drizzle a little bit of water, like a teaspoon or so. Not too much, just a little tiny bit, okay? If it doesn't, if it looks like it's holding together, kind of like a really rough ball of Play-Doh, great. Continue to knead. And then at this point, use one hand and use your other hand for force. Push it against itself. All right, and we're going to continue to knead this for about 5 to 10 minutes. All right, you can stop the video. Are you going? All right, so how do we know when our pasta is kneaded enough? All right, let me take a pause here to show you guys. So I have this nice, smooth ball of dough. Notice it's not sticky on my hands anymore. It's not sticking to the table. It's really smooth. I can run my hands over it. It feels nice. They always say like a baby's butt, but if you haven't had a baby, you have no idea what I'm talking about. So just look for this characteristic. It should be tight. It should hold itself together. If you press it, you see how it's springing back like that? You want it to spring back on itself. If we have that spring back, we have this nice smooth texture, your dough is done kneading. Take a piece of plastic wrap, loosely drape it over, and we're going to rest this guy for 20 minutes before we roll it. All right.
So here we have our dough that's been resting for a while. Even while during that rest period, you see how much smoother it's gotten. It's really nice, it's pliable, it feels beautiful. So I have my board again, a little bit of flour, and we're gonna roll this out by hand. Probably like most of you at home, I don't have a pasta machine right now, so I'm gonna be doing it the old grandma way, the Nona way. A little bit of flour and a rolling pin. A little tiny bit of flour. It doesn't need a lot right now. And my choice in rolling pins, I prefer to have one that's an even width all the way around, a standard pin. Mine happens to be silicone. Yours at home is probably wood. It doesn't matter, as long as you give it a little dust of flour. I would avoid using any pins like this. This is a French rolling pin. You'll see how it has tapered ends here. And that's specifically made for rolling rounds of dough for pies and tarts. So don't worry about that guy. Save him for a baking day. So we're going to take our pin and we're going to start rolling. Anytime you're rolling, you want to make sure that you're not pressing down. You always want to push away from yourself. That way we won't put dents in the pasta, and we'll make sure everything's nice, even width all the way around. Make sure it can move freely on the board, and push, push. And do this to get it as flat as you can for this stage. Give it a flip over. See how little flour I'm using? Because the gluten's so nicely developed in this dough, we don't have to worry about that. A little this way, and a little this way. All right, now it's still pretty thick. How do we make that even thinner? This is what we're gonna do. What I like to do, this is again the grandma way, you're gonna roll up that back of dough onto your rolling pin, grab this side with the hand, hold it down, and you're going to roll and push, like that. Roll and push. Again, up, roll and push, roll and push. And what you're going to see very quickly is that it's going to be stretching out to amazing lengths. Do it the other way. So we have the same on all sides. Roll and push. All right. Okay, and then we're going to do it these way because now this side's a little thicker, right? So again, roll, push. And do it in sections if it's too big. If it feels like it's too large and unmanageable, just cut the dough in half and work with half at a time. That's totally fine. What we're working with here, this is 1/4 of our 1 pound batch. So it is 1/4 of the dough that we just made. And you can see how much it makes already. 1 pound of fresh pasta is enough to feed a full family for a meal. So here we go. I ended up dividing mine in half because it was getting a little big for me. So if you go around, I did get a little hole. Don't worry about that. I'm going to show you how to fix that in a second. So I have a pretty even thickness all the way around. If it feels a little thick in spots, just use your fingers and gently just kind of give it a little pull out. But what we're looking for, what you can see here, is the translucency of this pasta. You see how I can see my hands through there? That is the thickness you're going for. It's very, very thin. You should be able to see yourself through the pasta. If you're rolling it, if you do have a pasta machine at home, this would be to a number 6 on the pasta machine. You always start at 0, which is the widest, and work your way to the thinnest that you need, and that would be a 6 in our account. All right, I'm just gonna give that guy a little help. All right, so the first pasta shape we're gonna make is papardelle. So papardelle is just a big, fat, hand-cut noodle, like a giant linguine, if you think of it that way, if you know what linguine looks like. All right, and you see I did get a rip here. If you have a rip, don't freak out about it. No big deal. You can just do this. You can give it a little pinch back together and roll it flat, just like that. There we go. Look at that. No more holes. It's a miracle. Okay, so papardelle. I kind of like this length of pasta. I think I'm going to leave it like that because I like the big, cool lengths. But what I am going to do is trim up the edges because we want nice, straight edges here, right? And don't throw these scraps away. These are yummy little scraps. What's up?
It's crooked.
That's okay. I'm going to go this way, too. Comments from the peanut gallery. Jeez. We're going to trim ourselves into a beautiful rectangle of dough. There we go. All right. Now, to make the papardelle itself, get yourself some flour. Either just regular all-purpose flour or some semolina flour if you happen to have it. We're going to give this guy a generous dusting. All right. Oh, sorry, Clint, I threw flour on you. My cameraman got attacked with flour.
Yeah, I did.
You're fine. Okay, so now we're going to fold it onto itself. Leave yourself a little lip here. I'll show you why in a minute. Flour again, fold it. Still got that same little lip. Flour again, fold it one more time. So we have this little folded up package of dough. Now we take our knife or your bench scraper, whatever you have, and you cut your big fat noodles. Here we go. Papardelle, like I said, about 1.5 inches, 2 inches. There we go. Now, why did we leave that little lip? We're going to gather those in our fingertips like this and watch. Check it out, papardelle. All right, so now that we have our big fat noodles, give them a good generous dusting of flour so they don't stick together. And then you're going to wheel them up together into a little bird nest, just like this. All right, and you set that guy aside. And that's it. That is papardelle. Now, this is a point where you can actually pause your pasta. If you wanted to make this today and cook it tomorrow, you would take it to here, lay it on a sheet pan with a little bit of flour and parchment, put it in the fridge, and don't cover it. Let it dry out in the fridge. It's going to take us about 1.5 minutes, 2 minutes to cook this fresh today. For every day that you keep it in the refrigerator, add 1 minute of cooking time. Okay, so that's our papardelle. We're going to make some raviolis next, and then I'm going to show you 2 amazingly simple sauces for each of these pastas. I have the same sheet of pasta, 2 quarters in papardelle, 1 quarter I've rolled out, same thinness, maybe even a little bit thinner. Again, you want to be able to see the translucency. You want to be able to see your fingers through it. You see I can see my fingers through that? That's the thickness we're looking for in a ravioli. Now, because again, I didn't run this through a machine, it's wider than a machine would do. A machine would only give you about half this width. So keep that in mind when you're rolling it out on a machine. It's going to be much, much longer. Make sure you give yourself the amount of space on your countertop. So what I'm going to do is, this is probably about 9 inches. I'm going to cut this in half lengthwise. All right. And again, don't worry too much about the shape now, as long as it's in a rough rectangle. Now I'm going to work with each sheet as if it was its own rolled piece. Here I have my ricotta filling. Okay, so ricotta, some fresh herbs, Parmesan cheese, and an egg yolk. Seasoned with just salt and pepper. Make sure you taste it before you put the egg yolk in, so that way you're not eating a raw egg yolk. Taste the seasoning, make sure the seasoning is correct, and then add your egg yolk. What I'm going to do is right down the center of one of my pasta strips, I'm going to put about a tablespoon of filling. Now notice how much space I'm giving this. I made my own ricotta, so it's much, much looser than a ricotta you would buy in the store. Make sure you drain all the moisture out. I would like to hang it in a colander overnight before I do this, just so I make sure that I get all the moisture. But again, a fresh ricotta is much, much wetter. All the way down the strip, about 2 inches in between each one. Then the next step is folding it over. Now, the ravioli we're making is called a mezzaluna, which means a half moon. I'm going to fold the top end to meet the bottom end, just like this. Make sure everybody's nice and straight. All right. And then what you do, this is the most important part, is you have to press around the filling. I always start at the seam end, and I press, you can see the filling inside there. You press up and around the filling, nice and tight. The goal is we're getting out all the air bubbles. Any air bubbles that remain in your pasta, in your raviolis, are going to explode when they get to the boiling water. And then you're going to have just a broken ravioli.
So expel all of that air. That's why I like to start here and press up and around. All right, we're nice and sealed now. For mezzaluna, we're going to use a biscuit cutter. So this is a 4-inch biscuit cutter. Oops, sorry, buddy. Didn't mean to do that. See, even chefs make mistakes. What we're going to do is, it's a half moon, right? So half a circle. Put half the cutter, just like that. Punch, 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 punch. Pop it out, and there you go. That is a mezzaluna, a half moon. And you're going to continue to do this for all your other little friends. This is probably a little bit of a big cutter for these guys. 3-inch biscuit cutter is ideal. If you don't have a biscuit cutter, something else you can do, just get yourself a cup. Look at this. You could punch it out with a glass at home. You don't need a biscuit cutter. Look at that. Exactly the same. So no need. We can work around any problems we might have, right? Biscuit cutters are nice because they have the nice sharp edge, but again, a glass works just fine. All right. So the mezzalunas, be careful when you're filling these. Make sure you have a good amount of flour on the bottom. They're very delicate at this point, especially if you're using a fresh ricotta filling. Use your bench scraper, gently pick them up off the countertop, and just lay them out. At this point, what I would do is get a sheet pan with a little bit of flour, lay them out, and just let them hang out until they're all done. I'm going to work the second piece of dough, and then I'm going to show you how to cook them up. All right, so we have all our mezzalunas made. They're dusted with flour. They've been sitting out for just a minute. Hot, boiling salted water, ready to go. The thing is, with this delicate ravioli, what you don't want to do is put it right into boiling water, because it will break apart. So once your water comes to a rolling boil, go ahead and just turn it down to a rapid simmer so it's not crazy boiling. And then these ravioli, make sure we slide them in gently. Take one edge and just gently slide it away from you. Don't drop it from up here, because you're going to splash yourself with boiling water and you're going to break your ravioli. Just slide them in gently, 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 gently. And then they're going to take almost no time to cook. This is like 45 seconds, right? So as soon as they float, basically, they're done. I'm going to do this in a couple batches here because I have a lot. All right, so we're going to wait for them to float. I have, let me see if I can find a better spoon. I have my spider here. All right, so again, we're going to bring this guy back up just to a rapid simmer. And right next to me, I have my beurre noisette, my brown butter, already ready to go. I made the beurre noisette. I crisped up my sage. That's all ready, hanging out and waiting for me. So you see how quick that happened. Look at our ravioli are floating already. Beurre noisette, just keep it hot up next to you. As soon as these ravioli float, go ahead and scoop them out one at a time. Get them into that brown butter. Get them coated. All right, so they don't stick together. Get over there, buddy. There we go. I'm just going to let this come back up to a simmer. Get a little more heat on you. Don't forget, too, as you put cold things into boiling water, the temperature is going to drop. So let it come back up to a simmer. Even though they're floating, now that they're floating and it's simmering, we can call that done. Drain them out with your spider or a slotted spoon, works just fine. And they're all going to go right into the brown butter right away. All right. So now here we are in the brown butter. If you don't feel comfortable giving them a little toss, don't worry. Just go ahead and get yourself a spatula or something gentle. Just turn them over in that brown butter. We just want to get everything nice and coated, all right? Just like that. Because they're done now. They're absolutely done. You see we haven't had any explosions, which is wonderful. That's what we don't want to happen. I want to put my next batch in. Again, just gently drop it away from you. Don't drop from up high. Don't be afraid of the heat. I know a lot of you ladies are afraid of that temperature. Don't worry about it. Get yourself some hand calluses. Get in there and just drop them on in. Alright. Alright, so once you have them all done and they're all tossed in brown butter, then we go ahead and do our plating. So just plain white plate here. This is what I would do. A few raviolis. Oops. Spatula works nice with this, but they are slippery little fuckers. Scoop them up. What? Is it not working? Alright, there we go. So maybe like 5 or 6 a portion is plenty. I think that looks good. And they have plenty of butter on them, so don't worry about extra butter on the plate. But what I always harp on you guys about is cleaning your plates. So Let me just get, yep, it's home, right? Little paper towel. Clean your plate edges. Make sure they're nice and clean. And then you take that beautiful crispy sage right over the top, just like that. Crumble it if you want. I'm not a big fan of crumbling. I like it just like that. And then extra finish, a little bit of Parmesan cheese. That's it. And that's all you need. And that is a perfect brown butter ravioli with crispy sage.